Greetings, class. This is your instructor, James Stevens, for HWE 100 Online. And today I'm going to present a mini lecture on Chapter 5, Fats and Oils, also referred to as lipids. And this slide that I'm going to, single slide I'm going to present to you is something that I do in my face-to-face classes. So I thought it would be neat to share something that I do regularly in the classroom but don't get a chance to do with you online students. And basically you're going to see a series of statements, kind of true or false or yes or no type questions or statements rather pertaining to the topic of fats, and I want you to ponder the question and in your head answer true or false. And this will give us a good basis leading into the chapter content with your where you're at with your knowledge involving or regarding lipids, fats, and oils. So the first statement is not coming up, by golly. There we go. So the first statement is all fat is bad for you and should be avoided. Is that a true or false statement? All fat is bad for you and should be avoided. Okay, so you probably were able to come up with your response very quickly, and hopefully your response was false. All fat is not bad for us and thus should not be avoided. But fat is very energy dense, has 9 calories per gram. There are quote-unquote good fats and quote-unquote bad fats. And you will learn by the end of this chapter which of those fats are bad or unhealthy and which fats are good, but you should remember that all fat is high in calories, and so you need to consume it in appropriate quantities. Now, if this was, let's say 30 years ago in the 80s, most of you, I'm going to assume, would have responded true, that fat is bad for you, because at that time that was the prevailing belief, was that fat is unhealthy and we need to cut it out, eliminate as much fat as possible for your diet. So in the past really I'd say 10-15 years or so, the scientific research and knowledge of fat has changed dramatically. We know that some fats are good, some fats not as good. Second statement here is a little bit of a follow-up to the first one. Nuts are fattening. What do you think of that? Is that true or false? Nuts are fattening. Now, we do know that nuts are high in fat, and thus they're going to be higher in calories than other foods. But really, I don't like to use that description of any food being fattening, because I could insert anything in here. I could say broccoli is fattening, right? Anything that you eat too much of can cause you to gain weight. And so we have to qualify this statement. Nuts are not any more fattening than anything else in your diet. They do contain healthy fat, but if you eat too many nuts, yes, that could contribute to your total calories, which if you don't expend could cause you to gain weight, just as if you ate too much broccoli. Now, most of us are not in danger of eating too much broccoli, right? How many times have you ever said to yourself, gosh, I wish I didn't eat so much broccoli? But you may have said to yourself, wow, I wish I didn't eat that whole can of Planters salted nuts. Nuts are a finger food, and they can be very addictive, right? They have that addicting reach for more type of quality about them. So what I teach people about nuts is, yes, while they are good for you, they're one of our healthy fats, you need to learn how to moderate your portions. Some ways that you can do that is add nuts to foods that you already eat. Like, say, put some almonds into a bowl of cereal that you consume. Put walnuts into maybe some yogurt or a salad. Okay, try to incorporate nuts into foods that you already eat, and you're less likely to have another bowl of cereal, right? Or have another salad, and in which case consume more of those nuts. But if you sit down in front of a container of nuts, then that can be a very dangerous recipe. Okay, next statement. Olive oil has less fat and calories than butter. Olive oil has less fat and calories than butter. That statement is actually false. We hear all the time that olive oil is a preferred type of fat. It's a healthy type of fat. It actually, because it's 100% fat, right? It's oil. It's a 100% fat. It actually has more fat and more calories than on an equivalent amount of butter. So 1 tablespoon of olive oil has more fat and calories than 1 tablespoon of butter. Butter actually has a percentage of water in it, and so it's not 100% fat. So what that means is, while we know that olive oil is good for us, we can't go hog wild with the olive oil and put it on everything that we eat and dip lots of bread into olive oil and use copious amounts of olive oil in cooking. It's a healthy type of fat, still high in calories. We need to moderate our consumption of it. Okay, another kind of offshoot of that first one. Olive oil is high in omega-3 fats. Olive oil is high in omega-3 fats. True or false? This is also false. And the reason why I add this one in here is because in my consulting experience, I would ask people about, well, where do you get omega-3 fats in your diet from? And invariably 9 times out of 10 they would say, well, I do use olive oil, and that's got omega-3 fats, right? Well, no, it doesn't. Olive oil is, again, a healthy fat. Omega-3 fats are also a type of healthy fat, but olive oil is not high in omega-3. In fact, quite the opposite, it's extremely low. Olive oil is high in what we call monounsaturated fats, as you'll learn through the lecture content and slides. Very low in omega-3 fats. Omega-3 fats are somewhat harder to come by in the diet. You have to choose fatty fish like salmon, tuna, trout, mackerel, etc. For animal sources, and then plant sources would be things like flax seeds, flaxseed oil, walnuts. You'd have to consume those foods in order to get significant amounts of omega-3 fats. Question 3. Fat can be stored in muscle cells. Fat can be stored in muscle cells. Chew on that for a moment. We know that oil and water don't mix. We don't usually equate fat and muscle, right? So your first instinct is probably to say false, when in fact this is true. There is a type of fat in our muscle cells. It's called intramuscular triglyceride, IMTG. And this type of fat actually builds up in 2 very divergent type populations. In people who have insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes and people who are obese, they tend to build up a lot of fat in their muscle cells, and that tends to contribute to the insulin resistance. It kind of exacerbates that condition. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, endurance athletes, runners, cyclists, triathletes, they also store a lot of this fat in their muscle cells, this intramuscular triglyceride, and it actually benefits them. It actually is an adaptation to all the exercise, cardiovascular exercise that they perform. It actually helps improve their ability to train and compete for long distances and durations. So this fat that does exist in our muscle cells can harm us, or it can actually help us. It really depends on what end of the health spectrum you're at. But that is a true statement. And lastly, 4, fat is a primary energy source during low to moderate intensity exercise. Fat is a primary energy source during low to moderate intensity exercise. Now you might be thinking back to chapter 4, where we learned that carbohydrates are a primary energy source for the body in general, and also during high intensity exercise, right? When you need to work out very vigorously, muscles are going to rely on that quick energy source of glucose, whether it's stored in muscles as glycogen or consumed. So this is a true statement. Fat is indeed the primary energy source during low to moderate intensity exercise. Now, I don't want you to misinterpret this, because this can be very easily misconstrued. When you go to a health club and you step on a treadmill or a bike or elliptical machine, oftentimes they'll have on that digital readout, it will tell you what heart rates you should be training at for certain desired effects, like a aerobic heart rate level, or a fitness, or intense training. And sometimes they have a fat burning zone. And that fat burning zone is actually the lowest zone on that chart. So people will go into a club workout facility and they work out for, say, 30 or 60 minutes, and they keep their heart rate in that lowest fat burning zone, because fat is a primary energy source during low to moderate intensity exercise. The problem with that is that the number of calories you're burning at that low to moderate intensity exercise is also very low. Okay, so at the lowest heart rate zones, you're burning the least amount of calories. What you really want to do, if you want to burn more calories and possibly even more fat calories, is to ramp up your heart rate. If you can't keep it sustained for the entire duration, which fit athletes would do, then you'd want to build in some interval sessions into your workout so that you're tapping into a higher intensity exercise, which ultimately will burn more calories during that 30 to 60 minute workout. But don't get on a treadmill, bike, or elliptical machine and only stay in that low heart rate fat burning zone, because the total amount of calories that you burn will also be low, and it probably won't bring about the desired changes in weight that you are likely seeking. Okay, well, I hope these 4 points have helped enhance your knowledge of fats, and you can reflect on them throughout the week. And I'll be happy to share more mini lectures in weeks to come. Thank you for your time.